The Mimic from Vita Carnis vs. SCP-939 from the SCP Foundation, two flesh-based organisms that hunt humans via mimicry. Both of these creatures are highly dangerous to humans and are considered some of the largest threats to them. But between these two creatures, who is more dangerous, and who would win in a fight if they were to encounter each other? Let's find out. Starting with the Mimic, these creatures have a height of around 7 feet tall on average, and they are a lot stronger than any traditional human. These creatures can also run at speeds at around 30 to 35 kilometers per hour or 18 to 21 miles per hour on average. They can also tank pistol gunfire, although it is specifically vulnerable in the head and leg regions. But based on their size and speed, these things would be outputting and are able to take anywhere from around 3,900 joules to 6,400 joules of force. See my How Strong a Mimic Is video for more of an explanation on how I got these numbers. But this would put them around the street tier level in power. These creatures are also highly intelligent, being able to know exactly where to hide and understand how their target works and lives and waits for the perfect opportunity to strike. And as their name would imply, they can also mimic voices, using them to disorient a victim or trick them. Now for their opponent, SCP-939. These creatures are around 2.2 meters long or around 7.2 feet long. These creatures have a bite force of around 35 megapascals, and their striking force would be around 6,400 joules of force, based on their average size and how that scales to their movement. But they also do not have a traditional nervous system, not having a nervous system really at all, a digestive or circulatory system. They don't even have eyes. These creatures can also be dissected and still be conscious afterwards, and they don't seem to be able to feel pain in the proper sense. They hunt in a grayscale, being able to track things via sound, and they also seem to have a running speed similar to a human, most likely slightly faster, at around 15 to a high end of 20 miles per hour. These creatures also have a mimicry ability to lure in others. They are also incredibly tough, needing several rounds from an assault rifle to take one down, meaning that these things can withstand a force between 7,500 joules up to 9,000 joules to properly even take one out. If this wasn't enough, they have a gas AMNC227, which is a antrograde amnesia effect, which makes it hard to focus and hard to form new memories, also making them pretty much invisible to anything that is in the gas. So, looking at these two, how do they compare to each other? Well, in terms of strength, they are pretty similar on the surface. Both can hit with forces around 6,400 joules of force, although the advantage definitely goes to 939, because the fact is their 35 megapascal bite force, when properly converted into joules, would reach around 17,500 joules, which is wall level. This is almost 3 times the amount of a normal mimic strength, and durability would also go to 939. A mimic might be able to take pistol fire relatively decently, but 939 is straight up taking assault rifle fire for way longer of a time, and they have a much higher pain tolerance than a mimic since they lack the nervous system to feel pain to the same degree as a mimic. However, mimics are most likely a little faster since they have a actual stated top speed and seem to be more consistently faster than a person, and from what we've seen of them, are a little more overall agile than 939. Mimics are also almost definitely more intelligent than 939. Their hunting style is far more complex and thought out than 939's mimicry, since they go out fully to understand their targets and find the right time to strike, especially in comparison to 939, which isn't dumb in the slightest, especially for a creature that doesn't even have a proper nervous system. but in comparison, the Mimic has the edge overall. 939 does have an overall better mimicry than the Mimic, since it's way more consistently human sounding from what we've seen of them, but the Mimics would actually hold a slight advantage in experience. Mimics are born to understand single target hunting and train themselves to take down prey by themselves. While 939 is more of a pack hunter and usually an ambush predator, although neither of them have fought something to the same degree as the other, the Mimic is more likely going to understand what it's fighting than the other. Although there are some problems at hand for the Mimic. For one, the Mimic only really has one way of fighting back, being, well, an up close confrontation. And sure, while they're more strategic, they're fighting against an enemy who can basically kill them with one shot, or at the very least, heavily injure them. And 939 having a much better durability in comparison basically means it's going to be tanking pretty much every hit that the Mimic is going to do. And based on the fact this is an up close confrontation, 939 really only needing one bite to win is just going to be in a better situation here. Especially since the Mimic isn't going to be doing any reliable damage. And while, yes, they are getting more hits in, most of those hits aren't really going to matter in comparison. Especially when 939 only needs one good bite to win this fight. And the final nail in the coffin is the AMNC-227 gas, which basically is just going to completely disorient the Mimic, putting it at an even more of a disadvantage since he's going to have to get up close to even do proper damage. Especially since 939 is basically going to be invisible for the entire period and can track the Mimic relatively easily as long as it's moving anywhere close near it. The Mimic might be smart enough to realize it has to be quiet while doing this, especially since the Mimic is definitely smart enough to realize what 939's main weakness is, but the gas is not helping with the fact that the Mimic is still the weaker one going into this fight. And honestly, while the mimicry might be able to confuse 939 for a time, it doesn't change the fact the Mimic still has to get up close with something that's just way stronger than it, and doesn't really have any good way to press that advantage in any meaningful way. So while overall this isn't going to be a quick fight, but 939 is just a little too tough for the Mimic in this fight. So 939 wins. But if we are talking about an Elder Mimic, things change a little. These creatures are around 10 feet tall at average and can move around 40 plus kilometers per hour, or around 25 to 30 miles per hour. So they are definitely faster at this point. But the most important part of this is their strength boost, with them being able to create forces up to around 11,000 joules to 19,000 joules of force. Now, if we take a low end, it would still be susceptible to 939's bite, but now it would have the power output necessary to actually do some good damage against them. And I actually prefer their chances here. Not only are they smarter, they would be physically much stronger than anything 939 could do other than that bite. And while the gas would still be an issue, Mimics are actually smart enough to understand this, and Elder Mimics especially, they would understand how this gas would work. If an Elder Mimic can figure out how to not trigger a motion alarm, I absolutely think that these things would be able to get the jump on 939. And unlike before, they only need one good power interaction to actually take these things out. So overall, against a normal Mimic, while it would be interesting and might last a while, 939's physical advantages just hold up too much. So 939 wins. But against an Elder Mimic now having the power output necessary while holding most of the other advantages in a fight like this, they would just be a little too much. And overall, I personally believe they would have a better chance at winning over 939. So overall, the Elder Mimic wins.